You know that feeling when you scroll through 100 guitars, see the glossy photos, and think, this is exactly what I need, only to get the instrument home and realize it's missing that little something that makes it feel right in the hands? I've been there, and I've also watched a lot of people end up with a Tele that sounds great on demo but feels stiff, or a pickup that looks custom but doesn't deliver the nuance they expected. That's why I'm breaking down the Fender John Osborne Telecaster today, so you can avoid the disappointment and actually walk away with a guitar that fits your playing style. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the thing that sets this model apart is the string bender mechanism. It's a hidden little lever built into the bridge that lets you pull the B string up a whole step, giving you that classic country cry without having to install a full-size bender on a Tele. In real-world gigs, that means you can hit a quick bend on a solo and get the vocal-like inflection that normally forces you to switch guitars or cheat with a pedal. I tried it on a mid-tempo shuffle, and the transition was seamless. The note sang right into the mix, and the mechanism didn't interfere with my picking hand. The guitar also comes with custom John Osborne pickups, which are basically a nod to the Tele's vintage heritage but voiced a bit hotter. In a small club setting, those pickups cut through the room without sounding harsh. I paired them with a classic Fender amp, and the clean tone had that bright, snappy attack you love in a Tele, while the overdrive retained clarity even at higher gain. The pickup output feels balanced for both rhythm chops and lead work, so you don't have to constantly dial your amp to keep the sound from getting muddy. Now, let's talk about the body and neck. An Alder body is pretty standard for Telecasters, but it's worth noting that Alder gives a fairly even frequency response: tight lows, pronounced mids, and a smooth high end. In my experience, that translates to a guitar that sits well in a band context. It doesn't dominate the bass players, nor does it get lost behind a heavy rhythm section. The 68 style maple neck, with its comfortable C shape, feels familiar to anyone who's spent time with a vintage style Tele. The neck's radius is modest, so bending strings for those soulful leads is still comfortable even after a couple of hours of playing. Who should consider this Tele? If you're a country or Americana player who's always been frustrated by the need for a separate bender rig, this is a perfect middle ground. It also appeals to rock players who like that Tele twang but want a little extra expressiveness without a full-blown pedal board. Semi-pro gig musicians who need a reliable workhorse that can switch from clean country licks to crunchy rock riffs on the fly will find the pickup voicing and bridge flexibility very useful. Even a seasoned session guitarist might appreciate the built-in bender as a time-saving feature when hopping between styles in the studio. On the flip side, if you're a total beginner, you might want to hold off. The string bender, while clever, adds a tiny bit of mechanical complexity that can be confusing the first few times you try it. It's not something you'll break, but it does require a brief adjustment period to get the feel of pulling the lever without throwing off your timing. Also, players who are looking for a heavy metal tone might find the Tele's inherent brightness a mismatch for their genre, even with the hotter pickups. In that case, a humbucker-laden Strat or a Les Paul style might serve better. One practical strength that often gets overlooked is the modified vintage Tele bridge. The modification retains the classic look but improves string stability and sustain. In my daily routine, I've noticed that the strings stay in tune longer after a long set, which is a huge win when you're swapping between songs that demand different tunings or bending techniques. The bridge also makes string changes quicker, a small but appreciated convenience for anyone who swaps gauges often. As for weaknesses, the guitar's weight is on the heavier side of a typical Tele. The Alder body coupled with the bridge hardware makes it feel solid, which is great for resonance but can cause fatigue during a marathon gig. If you're used to a lightweight Strat, you'll notice the difference after about an hour of standing. Another practical consideration is the limited color palette. The John Osborne edition sticks to classic finishes, which may be a downside if you're after something more eye-catching for stage presence. Installation and setup are pretty straightforward out of the box, but because of the string bender, you'll want a decent tech to set the intonation and action precisely. I took it to a local shop, and they spent about 15 minutes fine-tuning the bender's travel and making sure the bridge saddle heights matched my preferred string gauge. Once that's done,